In those days from the 80s, I mean, it was all about the passion, especially with heavy metal music, all about the passion and the integrity.
Right.
And, you know, watching your movie, something that kind of bothers me is a lot of, you know, the younger generation, they're so, it's all in the get rich quick thing, you know, be a pop star, do this and that. I mean, you could just be some, you know, stupid rich douchebag, make a homemade porn movie and become, you know, this big celebrity, you know, reality star, and everyone buys into that, and all of a sudden you're like a role model for teenage girls, where the bands that worked hard and busted their ass means really nothing nowadays. It's almost kind of joked upon. You know, it bugs me when people kind of compare, you know, your movie to a Spinal Tap thing, and it's like, it's that.
Well, but it was meant to be.
Yeah, in that sense too.
Yeah,
but
kind of
you have to understand.
Yeah, I know it's disappointing in a certain sense, because people are if you don't see the movie, then your impression is it's another Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
The reality is that Spinal Tap is the fake Anvil.
Right.
You know, we're not the real Spinal Tap; they're the fake Anvil.
Right.
Okay, that's really the essence of it all. In making the movie, we knew straight away. There's no way around it. Come on, our drummer's name is Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Strike one.
Yeah.
Okay.
He directed.
Yeah, it's
a different Rob Reiner.
Yeah, there's no way around it. You're making a movie about a heavy metal band, a heavy metal band that has not made it. It's that no one's heard of. It's
well
most strike three. You're out. You know,
most people
so go with it.
You know,
no, but we went with it instead of trying to push away the similarities. We embraced them.
Right.
Why? Because it worked as a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
People went into that movie expecting to have a good laugh, and they're sitting there bawling their eyes out.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it's like, we got you.
Yeah. Well, so many bands have, you know, claimed after that movie came out, you know, that it's so real to what the rock and roll scene was like.
Well, if you talk to Biff Byford from Saxon, I think
they
he
based
said
a lot of it from.
Well, I think Harry Shearer.
Right? Yeah, Harry Shearer went on.
I think Harry Shearer went on tour with them, and they took notes. The scene with
the Stonehenge, the Black Sabbath.
No, well, that's from the Black Sabbath story to begin with, but the scene where Harry puts the cucumber down his pants, that's from Saxon.
I thought that would have been from you. With the
no. Well, it was all taken from real life.
Yeah, yeah.
We all sit and laugh at it, but life is sometimes more stranger than fiction. You know, you see, the thing is, when we went to do this movie, we wanted to be completely brutally honest.
Sure.
And not give that fake facade that everybody else probably would do.
Right, right.
In the sense that never show an empty room where you're going to play, only show successful looking things.
Right, right.
Never reveal that there's any doubt that you're anything but a big star.
Right.
Okay? That's fake.
Absolutely.
When Sasha went to make this movie, he wanted it to be completely, totally honest, and that's what we did. I certainly had no problem with that. I didn't think that, and I still don't think that it's detrimental to show what really goes on. I think it's about bloody time.
Yeah, somebody did. That's why that movie was so successful, and kudos to Sasha for putting that out and exposing.
Well, that's it, and having the balls, like internally as a band, to go, who cares?
Yeah.
The success of the Anvil movie was, to a great degree, all about how we went about releasing it and what we did to promote it.
Right.
That's why it became successful. Not just because it was a good movie, because you have to be there 100% or more.
But making it a great story really helps.
It really helps.
You can promote shit, and it's shit. But if you promote something good,
then it can catch on, but it may get missed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's still very, 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 very difficult. If you think, I mean, if the average musician thinks it's, oh, look how easy it was for Anvil, I'm going to go make a movie. Good luck.
Right.
Because there's so many different things that had to line up for it all to work. It's not just really, oh, it was a good story, or
sure.
There's
so
many everything.
Like, okay,
it was about a band that made an impact. Had to have been about a band that made an impact, but an impact in a way that it was influential. So you got to get big major stars to sit there and talk about it.
Right.
Well, you would have had to have been an influence in order for that to happen.
Sure.
Step one.
Right.
Okay. You're not gonna. You can't. Not any band. You can't do that with just any band. It needed to be authentic.
Right.
It needed to be a real thing that really happened. You know, it's not like anything was made up. That's just the first step. These guys were not paid. There wasn't one person that thought this was going to be a successful thing.
Right.
You know, if you ask Lemmy, what do you think? Do you think the Anvil's going to get successful in the movie? I hope so.
Yeah.
That's about all he could say.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like he didn't charge Sasha money to sit there and say, they're all good mates, they're all good friends.
Right.
You know, you know.
Well, no one really knew how big that movie was going to be.
Well, that's what I mean. So everybody
yeah.
who came to play, so to speak, did it out of the kindness of their hearts and from a place that's authentic.
Right.
There's no put on or bought time or bought opinions.
Yeah.
So that's just the first step. The second step, what are you filming? And who are you filming?
Right.
Okay, so what are you filming? When did Sasha walk in? It's all about being at the right place at the right time. We were about to go out on a tour, and a breakneck tour. It wasn't just a tour, it was a breakneck tour.
Right.
And you have to understand, you got to, in my position, here comes the opportunity of a lifetime.
This is a European tour here.
Yeah, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. He's building a film crew and saying he's coming out on the road, and I'm looking at a tour with the most insane plans that you're going, this is going to be a disaster. I've never done anything like this.
Right.
I'm going, we're going to do, how are we going to get around? Like, at first, I mean, everything just the way,
unbelievable.
When we first got word that we're going to go do this, it all started with going to this festival in Italy. It's just a really long bunch of coincidences that are not really coincidences. It's when all the stars line up.
Right.
Is what really it's all about. We met this Tiziana there who put the tour together. She assured me she was going to get sponsorship and there was going to be a support band who was going to pay for a tour bus. I thought we were going to do a regular tour like we had done many times in the past, where you get a main booking company that brings in a tour bus. The support bands pay for the bus. We get all the we did very well. We've done very well that way. We go out and we have a tour bus. We do the tour. You don't have to worry about driving or getting anywhere. You're taken where you got to go. That's generally how we've always done tours in Europe.
Right.
Never knew of any other way.
Yeah.
She shows me an itinerary and she keeps telling me there's a tour bus, and then here we were. It must have been 2.5 weeks before we're supposed to leave, and she's telling me there's no tour bus. We'd have no transportation. How are we doing this? So.
Very typical of the touring industry.
Well, no, untypical from my perspective.
Yeah, it's
but at the meantime, she's telling me this, and I'm getting advance deposits in my bank account that won't even pay for our flights.
Wow. Okay,
there wasn't even enough there to get me there.
Right. You didn't even go through all this in the movie.
Oh no, I'm just giving you all some of the backstory. There was this guy by the name that we call Gregorius from Greece, who said, listen, I'll pay for your flights to come to Europe if you do 6 dates in 10 days. I'll pay for all your hotel rooms, all your transportation, and all your food.
Right.
And I'll pay for your flights. So I said, okay,
Right.
that's
Sure,
going to get
sounds
me,
like a good deal.
that'll get me to
Yeah.
Europe. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So it wasn't, so that's how we got there. Once we got there, and then of course the mayhem started and sort of the filming. I knew before we left what it was going to be, and I also knew this is going to be incredibly dramatic to film this.
Right.
Like, it would have been no big deal to have, it would have been not near as intense if we'd done it the way we've done it all the times in the past.
Sure.
This was something specifically very, very, very unique for us.
Right.
So we get to Europe, and of course she goes, I dive. Well, you know, we went under like an overpass, and it was a circular one, and she gets too far over to the right, and the roof of the camper is scraping in the inside of the underpass.
Right.
I mean, that was it. Glenn flipped.
Right.
Like a G5, they went,
yeah.
absolutely. Get her out of the driver's seat. She's gonna kill us. I'm gonna leave right now. I just was freaking out. So Rob took over the driving. So
Right.
now we were driving all over Europe ourselves. No GPS.
Yeah.
Nothing but cell phones and taxi cabs to take us to the gigs.
Right.
Once we got into the town.
Right.
I mean, that's what happened when we get to Prague. Well, what do you think happened? Where's the gig?
Right.
How do you read the street signs?
Yeah.
Who's going to give us directions? No one speaks English. So what do? We ended up getting a cab. We followed the cab
Right.
to the venue, but we were still an hour and a half, 2 hours late.
Oh wow.
But I mean, there'd be no story. It wouldn't be thick. It wouldn't be dramatic. It wouldn't be if it wasn't what it was.
Yeah.
You see
Well, that's
what
what
I'm saying?
makes
It's
the
like,
whole
oh,
story. And it's,
oh,
yeah,
that's what I
right,
mean.
it's all
And I
captured.
knew, and we're driving down the highways, and I'm saying to Rob, I'll go, we'll never be faced with doing this for the rest of our lives. But this is going to be the most important thing we've ever done. I mean, it seemed really obvious to me.
Yeah.
And the more things that went wrong, the more dramatic it seemed to make it. And that's why I'm saying, what are you filming? Who are you filming?
Right.
You know, can any band do this? Not likely.
Yeah.
It needed all these circumstances in order for it to actually mean something and take the people on a ride.
Well, going through the whole experience and seeing the success of the movie and the success of the band now after the movie, I mean, it must be just such a great feeling that it's like this 30
It's
years
justice.
of work has
Justice.
paid off. We finally got what we deserve. Other than, you know, bands that just make it overnight or something. At least this is something you could say, we worked hard for this. This
Well, it was
is
all
well-deserving success.
well, it was all meant to be the way it was.
Right.
It wouldn't have worked any other way.
I
You know
want
what I'm
to
saying? And I that's why I don't go, it should have happened earlier. No, it wouldn't have worked earlier.
Right.
This
That's
made
a good
it.
thing.
This made it all right. You know, all the trials and tribulations that we went through to even get to the point where there was a movie needed to happen. The music business needed to fail Anvil so that we would be underground and stayed underground for
But
20
still
years
continuing
because
every year.
yes,
from
because
that would.
and it was
It didn't
success.
yeah.
It
Absolutely.
was success.
But that's the point. You never gave up. You kept putting out records. You never slowed down.
As much as people want to say you weren't successful, I'm sorry. You can put a band together and never record a record.
Right.
Okay? Most don't.
Yeah, well, that's the definition of success. It's not all just the financial success.
No, man. Success is being able to do what you want and get away with it endlessly. That is success. Sorry, that's just the way I see it. Okay? And yeah, we're not Bon Jovi, but never wanted to be.
Right.
Come on, give me a break. That's not what we're about. That's never what we've been about. Like I said back in Bob Nalbandian's magazine,
Kick-Ass Monthly.
yeah, fuck money, give me metal. I was in the underground and proud to be, and that's where I was comfortable. I got to do everything I wanted to do. I have done everything the way I wanted to do it and how I wanted to do it when I wanted to do it.
All right.
That is success.
Absolutely. Well
That's
said.
just the way I look at it.
Well, speaking of fanzines, I'm going to break out my old fanzine I did back in the old days of the Headbanger. This was back in '84, and I'm going to read you some if you don't mind. Something that was, we did a lot of stuff on Anvil. This was the 8th issue, and I started about the same time Bob Nalbandian and Metal Mania and all the others. And there's a article, speaking of Sasha and that infamous Marquee show, one of my writers, and they were just all metalheads, friends of mine, they went out to England and reviewed the Marquee show on August 30th, 1983.
Right.
And I'll just read you a little bit. About 10:30, the Mad Foursome came crashing on stage, tearing through a mad rendition of the instrumental March of the Crabs. Headbangers began slamming about in the band as the band immediately ripped into Mothra. In the crowd, bodies flying, heads a banging, lips a screaming. On stage, the same furious activities were taking place. Anvil are the definition of a true heavy metal onslaught. Bound in leather, chains, locks of long hair, they executed a ravaged set of material from all 3 albums. This was just after Forge and Fire, obviously.
Right. That's actually that's the second time going to the Marquee.
The reason I'm reading this is I remember you made a point of saying, I believe in the movie, sorry, I throw on my reading glasses here, son of old age. You talked about so many people, like Sasha, that are now successful in the business, but so many major record company people and all these people that were into Anvil back in the day. And you know who wrote this article? A guy by the name of Ron Lafitte. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He went on to manage Megadeth, and then he went on to be the vice president of Elektra Records, the vice president of A&R for Elektra and Capitol Records, and he currently, didn't you tell me, Carl, he's currently managing Alicia Keys or something now?
He's at Red Light, now he's at Irving Azoff's
So there you go, what you
management
said is
company.
absolutely true, and there's proof right there. That, all these, tons of people were Anvil fans back then. And people
Yeah, but what's disheartening is it didn't help us. In any real
now, was it
way.
because you were tied with Attic at the time that, because, I'm surprised that, like a management company like Q Prime or something like that wouldn't have picked up the band. Was it, the problem?
Well,
actually,
they did. Part
Did
of
it?
Q
Yeah.
Prime did. That was David Krebs.
Right.
Derailed our entire career.
Oh.
That was the
More news.
went
I
to
never heard
the
about this.
went to the chopping block.
Yeah.
That's where we really went to the chopping block.
Oh, wow.
It was really fucked then.
Yeah.
Well, there were people that big in the business. I mean, Ross Helfand went to David Krebs, the guys from Kerrang, and and then
Sure. David
goes, okay, I'm going to sign the band. So great, beautiful. We were signed to Attic Records. He went to a number of the major labels, and they go, yeah, we'd love to sign the band. We want the first 3 albums for nothing.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Now, what
That's
was Attic?
gonna
Was
fly.
Attic because what other bands did they have? I know it was a Canadian.
Well,
one.
the Air, and they had Triumph.
Okay. Oh, it was Triumph on Attic.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there was no money being offered to Attic Records to pay for the first 3 albums.
Right.
In other words, give me them and we'll make the money off it, and then we'll use that money to finance Anvil's future.
Right.
And Attic's going, and what about us? How do we get paid back?
Right.
Well, then we're not going to sign it away.
Wow.
And that was the end of it.
But I'm
Right
sure
there.
now.
David couldn't get us a record deal without the 3 albums being thrown into the mix, and that was the end of it.
Now, the album was obviously licensed throughout Europe, then, right? And they're the
Yeah,
first
well,
albums.
yeah, because Case Wessel's
Roadrunner.
Roadrunner was Al Mayer's best friend,
Right. Oh,
so that's why.
I got you.
So we were on Roadrunner.
But you can have Roadrunner put it out here in the
Road.
States.
That wasn't. They didn't have a
But they
label.
were a smaller label here, yeah.
They didn't open up Road Racer, which was their American thing,
Right.
till after the fact. Anyway, they didn't really exist. I think till '84, '85, and the deal that Al had done with Case was only for Europe, so it wasn't going to go through Road Racer.
Right.
Okay,
I got you.
so that was a dead end, and then it was all on our own. We were all on our own from that point on.
Right.
Having to pay for our own albums, but I'm not. Don't misunderstand me. I'm very proud of what we did.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I mean,
it's
quite a
to be
career.
able to
Looking
pick
back on
up
it
to be able
now.
to pick up the pieces and not get signed to labels and not to be managed and just do it all on your own for 30 years, and then finally what has happened. So it's all good, you know. There's no bitterness. I never begrudged, you know, the success of the bands that, you know, like certainly not Metallica. You know what I'm saying? When Johnny Z brought Metallica, he couldn't get us.
Right.
You know, there's a point where Johnny Z and David Krebs are sitting in our change room, and they both want the band. David wouldn't work with Johnny. Johnny wouldn't work with David. That fell through. Couldn't go with Megaforce.
Right.
So that went down the toilet. We stayed with David Krebs. David Krebs couldn't get us a deal. We got shelved from 1983 to 1987.
Yeah.
Most important 4 years of heavy metal.
Absolutely.
And we got pulled right out of the stream.
Yeah.
And that's what really happened. That's what happened.
Yeah.
But now, having said that, there'd be no Story of Anvil.
Exactly.
Had it all worked out, there would have never been a movie. There would have nothing. It needed to be.
It all happens for a reason.
Everything happened for a reason.
Absolutely.
So that's why there's no bitterness, and I'm in a good place. Look it's like I said, I got to do whatever the fuck I wanted all these years.
And that is success.
That's success.
Cool.